Welcome to Damn Good Movie Memories with your host, Brian Davis. This podcast is the cure for your long commute and super boring workday. Hey there, it's Brian Davis, and for this week's episode, we're going to talk about our favorite movies that take place within one day. 24 hours could be just a night, but for the most part, it has to be limited to one day. Now, we may have some cheats in there because of possible timeline. Maybe they go back in time, things like that. But for the most part, all of our movies that we pick have to be one day. I have a ton of them. So I have a top 10 list and a ton of honorable mentions. So let's get into it now. Number 10 for movies that take place in one day is Death at a Funeral from 2007. This is the UK version and not the remake. So when this came out in 2007, it was one of the funniest comedies I had seen in a while, and it was totally unexpected. The trailer was intriguing enough for me to check out, and the movie was far better and funnier than I could have ever imagined. And I didn't even bother to see the US remake from 2010 because this version cannot be topped. Death at a Funeral reminds me of a classic like screwball comedy. You know, just when you think the movie can't get any more over the top, another unexpected hilarious turn appears, and this bears repeat viewing, and I highly recommend you see this film. And it pretty much, from what I remember, it all takes place in one day. It is just one crazy thing after another at a funeral. Number 9 is The Goonies from 1985. I really thought about this one, and I was like, it has to be one day. I don't remember it being more than one day. So that's why I left it at 9, because I wasn't sure. So if I'm wrong, you can correct me. But from what I remember, this all takes place in one day. This was one of my favorites as a kid. Whenever I needed a break from Back to the Future, The Goonies was almost always next in line in my video queue, and it was less scary than, let's say, Indiana Jones, and as a 7-year-old boy, you could really relate to the younger characters in the film. My friends and I were obsessed with the movies, and all we wanted to do was ride our bikes, and if we were lucky, stumble upon some buried treasure. And before he was Rudy and Samwise, Sean Astin, in my mind, was always going to be Mikey. He was also in this TV Disney movie that aired one Sunday night called The Brat Patrol, which I loved. And I know it's completely random, but I would love to watch that again, but it's nowhere to be found. Also, being a big sports fan at that age, I loved Sloth, and that he was, played by a retired Oakland Raider defensive lineman named John Matuszak, and sadly, Matuszak died only 4 years after making the film due to an accidental overdose. There were tons of scenes that were my favorites, like Mouth, who was played by Corey Feldman, translating inappropriate instructions to the new housekeeper. Of course, Chunk doing the truffle shuffle. Chunk making vomiting noises when he's kidnapped by the Fratellis. But there was one scene that just made me crack up nonstop, and I'll see if I can find the clip. But if I can't, it goes something like this. Mouth is doing this like silly falsetto voice, sticking his tongue through the painting.
Make me feel like a woman. Come on, give me a nice wet licorice kiss.
Number 8 is the original Freaky Friday from 1976. I am completely faithful to the original. It's the version I grew up with, the version I loved, and will continue to support. I mean, come on. I'm going to choose Jodie Foster over Lindsay Lohan any day. Plus, you get John Astin, who of course was Gomez in the original Addams Family. He plays her father. I loved everything about this movie, all the wacky scenarios like the overflowing washing machine to the water skiing event, and all the sports scenes like the field hockey game and playing baseball in the park were terrific. And if you're going to watch a version, I realize that, it depends when you grew up and everything, but look, even if you only knew the Lindsay Lohan version, you should still go back and check out the original. To me, that's always the best. Number 7 is American Graffiti from 1973. This is the ultimate coming-of-age story, and is the second movie from director George Lucas. The film is based on Lucas's experiences as a teenager in the 1960s while living in Modesto, California. Modesto is about 2 hours east of San Francisco. Now, again, this all takes place literally in one night before Richard Dreyfuss goes off to school, and I realize you could say, well, it turns into the next day, but technically it starts at night, so we still hit that 24-hour threshold. So there we go. We're going a little loose here. The thing that folks most remember about this movie is the amazing soundtrack. This is one I think I should do. Definitely a review with my mom, but we'll see if we get to it or not. Every popular rock and roll song that you can think of from the 1950s is included in this movie. And as for a plot, there really isn't one. You follow the lives of a group of friends cruising the town on one summer night. And the cast is awesome. And you get to see young stars before they were actually big-time stars. You have Richard Dreyfuss, Harrison Ford, Suzanne Summers, Ron Howard, Cindy Williams, Charles Martin Smith, and of course, Mackenzie Phillips. Number 6 is Dog Day Afternoon from 1975. Hell, it's in the title. It's one afternoon. The craziest thing about Dog Day Afternoon is that it's really based on a true story. If you were to watch this movie and not know this, you would easily think that the plot is pretty far-fetched. But again, truth is always stranger than fiction. The movie stars Al Pacino and John Cazale as two friends who decide to rob a bank in order for Pacino to have enough money to pay for his lover's sex change operation, that's played by Chris Sarandon. A third accomplice is played by Gary Springer, and he kind of rounds out their motley crew. The problem is that none of the guys have any experience robbing banks, and it's just a comedy of errors for everyone involved. And what should have been an in-and-out job turns into this huge hostage situation with tons of news crews covering the chaotic scene. I've mentioned before that, John Cazale, what a career. I mean, the guy, it ended very tragically because he died at a young age due to contracting lung cancer. But he was in amazing movies. It was almost like James Dean. He was in both The Godfathers. He was in Dog Day Afternoon. He was in The Deer Hunter. Just what a career. Number 5 is The Breakfast Club from 1985. This is still one of the most iconic movies ever to come out of the 1980s. And the reason it still resonates with people today is that there's certain things about being a teenager that is timeless, and The Breakfast Club features all of these timeless qualities. As Anthony Michael Hall's character says so perfectly in the paper he delivers to the assistant principal at the end of the movie, every school has a brain, an athlete, a basket case, a princess, and a criminal. And that still exists today. You can change the era, but kids are kids, and nothing changes. The Breakfast Club is yet another amazing John Hughes film. If you know anything about this podcast, we did a full episode, I believe, just on John Hughes movies, because that's how brilliant he was, and the 80s wouldn't have been the same without him. Of course, this movie takes place in an afternoon on a Saturday detention. And again, all the actors here are 80s icons: Molly Ringwald, Judd Nelson, Anthony Michael Hall, Emilio Estevez, and Ali Sheedy. And look, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Paul Gleason, who was perfect as the assistant principal, Vernon.
All right, people, we're going to try something a little different today. We are going to write an essay of no less than 1,000 words, describing to me who you think you are.
Is this a test?
And when I say essay, I mean essay. I do not mean a single word repeated 1,000 times. Is that clear, Mr. Bender?
Crystal.
Good. Maybe you'll learn a little something about yourself. Maybe you'll even decide whether or not you care to return.
Yeah, I can answer that right now, sir. That'd be no for me, because...
Sit down, Johnson.
Thank you, sir.
My office is right across that hall. Any monkey business is ill-advised. Any questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
I'll give you the answer to that question, Mr. Bender, next Saturday. Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
That man is a brownie hound.
Number 4 is First Blood from 1982. This is the first installment of the Rambo franchise, and it's by far the best. The realistic shots and dark tone were never really matched in later sequels. Sylvester Stallone is terrific as an ex-Green Beret named John Rambo. He doesn't have much dialogue, but the action scenes are just terrific, and the supporting cast is fabulous with Richard Crenna, Brian Dennehy, and a very young David Caruso in one of his early roles. You'll see him in the very beginning. The variety of traps that Rambo sets in the woods are just tremendous, and you don't even feel bad for the cops, especially after the way they treated Rambo in the beginning of the film. After a while, it's kind of like, hey, why don't he just burn the fucking town down? Hooray, he's got a missile launcher, so good riddance, town. So, yeah, that's kind of how you feel. He just wanted to be left alone, and the cops were fucking with him, and that's it. Burn the sucker down, and I say go for it, Rambo. In any case, this movie takes place in one hellish day for this town, and the town is never the same, so be careful when you pull someone over who's an Green Beret / war hero.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off! It wasn't my war! You asked me, I didn't ask you! And I did what I had to do to win, but somebody wouldn't let us win! Then I come back to the world, and I see all those maggots at the airport protesting me, spitting, calling me baby killer and all kinds of vile crap. Who are they to protest me, huh? Who are they? Unless they've been me and been there and know what the hell they're yelling about.
Number 3 is Adventures in Babysitting from 1987. This is a perfect example of why I love movies from the 80s. There really isn't much of a story to start with, and then before you know it, all these fun scenarios pop up, and of course there's action, comedy, and music. I'm gonna sound old now, but that's okay, I'm old. This movie would never get made today. There are no superheroes, there's no explosions, and you don't need CGI. It's okay. I will always have my movie collection to keep me happy, and this podcast, so that's why it's called Damn Good Movie Memories. I totally had a crush on Elizabeth Shue ever since she was Allie with an I in The Karate Kid, and so when I heard about Adventures in Babysitting, I was all in, and my dad loved all the music on this soundtrack because it was filled with blues and soul music, and it was our introduction to the legendary blues guitarist Albert Collins, because of ain't nobody gonna leave this place without singing the blues. So there's just also a fabulous song by Percy Sledge called Just Can't Stop, which plays during the closing credits and in the intro. But of course, this all takes place in one night.
Nobody gets out of this place without singing the blues.
Number 2, well, it has to be my favorite movie of all time, and that's Airplane from 1980. Now, you might be wondering, why isn't it number 1? Well, there's a reason, because, it's all by subject. Of course, it's my favorite movie. Should always be on the top of the list, but when it comes to one-day movies, I thought I'd just at least make it number 2 because I think there's another movie that fits the scenario better. Look, I've talked about this movie over and over because it's the funniest comedy ever made. If you want to hear all my really deep thoughts on Airplane, check out the 100th episode, which is where we all talk about our favorite movie of all time. There's nothing more I could say. Every time I watch it, I never get sick of it. It's like listening to an album I've heard a million times, but I still never get tired of it. That's how Airplane is to me. And of course, it takes place in one crazy day on an airplane.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
All right, number 1. What could possibly be better than Airplane? And of course, it's not better, but is it better for the one-day movie subject that we're doing on this episode? Yes, and it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off from 1986. It even says it in the title. It's got to be number 1. This is my favorite John Hughes movie. It's a terrific movie. It's my go-to movie when I was sick. It was just everything that I wanted one day to be, and that's how it is. If you're in Chicago, of course, you're going to go to Wrigley Field, you're going to go to the museums, you're going to do all these things, and they knock it out of the park. And it doesn't, I don't know if it's physically possible to do all that they did, but it doesn't matter. Power of editing, and it's amazing, whether it be just the back and forth between Ferris's sister and Ed Rooney and the principal, and it's just, there's so many great scenes in the movie. I never get tired of it, and I continue to watch it to this day, and I still get a smile on it. And even though Ferris to me doesn't hold up, I think, as well as it did when I was a kid, I have a lot more fun with Cameron now, and then of course Rooney and things like that, but it's still a blast. It was a career-making movie for Matthew Broderick, so gotta be number 1.
Look, this is not a phone call. There is an intruder, male, Caucasian, possibly armed. Certainly, we're in my kitchen. My name's Bueller. Look, it's real nice that you hope my brother's feeling better, but I'm in danger, okay? I am very cute, I am very alone, and I'm very protective of my body. I do not want it violated or killed, all right? I need help! Speaking English? Dickhead! Excuse me. Whoever's in the house is still in the house. I'd like you to know that I've just called the police. So if you have any brains whatsoever, you'll get your ass out of my house real quick. I'd also like to add that I have my father's gun and a scorching case of herpes.
All right, I do have extras. We'll get through them quickly. All right, After Hours from 1985. This was directed by Martin Scorsese. It's a crazy movie about the nightlife in New York City, kind of that down and sleazy vibe that it was before everything got cleaned up there. It stars Griffin Dunne and Rosanna Arquette. Just it's super fun and all these crazy things that are going on. You might remember Griffin Dunne, of course, if you've seen An American Werewolf in London. He was also in Johnny Dangerously. He plays Michael Keaton's brother in that movie. Airheads with Adam Sandler and Brendan Fraser and Steve Buscemi. That they basically go through. They try to hijack a radio station so they can get their song played, and it's a crazy day and night for them. Of course, this is mentioned a lot by our guest, Dazed and Confused. It's like the ultimate 70s movie. Of course, it wasn't in the 70s, like they filmed it in the 90s, but this is how I imagine the 70s were in high school, kind of like in the mid to late 70s. The Desperate Hours with Humphrey Bogart, where he takes a family hostage for one hellish night for them. Falling Down, I believe Metal Mike mentions this movie. Very dark comedy, but really well done, about a guy who kind of loses it after he loses his job, and so many great scenes. The best scene being where he goes to McDonald's and it's like 11:01, and of course they stop serving breakfast at 11, but he still wants breakfast at 11:01, and it's probably the reason why McDonald's now has all day breakfast, so someone doesn't go and shoot up the place for not getting breakfast at 11:01. So there you go. The original Halloween, of course. Come on, it's one night. It's got to be there. High Noon. So this came on my radar because of Westerns. Of course, I'd seen it, but yeah, it's almost in real time. If we want to do real-time movies, High Noon basically follows that format where it's 90 minutes and he has to kind of have that showdown with the guys that are coming back for revenge. It's mentioned later in this movie. Later in this episode, I think Samantha mentions it, but Rope from Alfred Hitchcock, that's almost in real time as well. This one I wasn't sure about, so that's why it's on my extras list, but I'm pretty sure it's one night, and it's called Sorry, Wrong Number, with Barbara Stanwyck and Burt Lancaster, about a woman who's being terrorized on the telephone, and she's an invalid, so she can't get out of bed, so she keeps getting these phone calls about someone that's going to kill her, or at least she hears something about plotting to get her death, and nobody will pay attention to her. It's actually based on an old-time radio play of the same name. And lastly, 3 O'Clock High, which is one day. It's in high school, and Casey Shemko is like trying to avoid getting beat up by the new kid who he does not befriend. He just gets set up for a fist fight during the day, and he just kind of has to go throughout the whole day trying to avoid this guy, but he can't. And ultimately, 3 o'clock rolls around, and you'll just have to see the movie and find out. All right, this was a fun topic to come up with a bunch of movies for, but we have tons of guests, so let's get to them now. All right, we're back with Keith. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back, Brian. I appreciate that.
No problem. We love how concise you are. You always have top 5 lists, and you come organized, and nothing against our other guests, but you're definitely our most organized guest, so I love it.
Well, if I'm going to take that, I'll take that as a prize.
Perfect.
And of course, I do have the top 5 with some honorable mentions.
I love it. All right, so this one, we're going to do movies that take place in the day, and I'm dying to hear your list.
It's funny, because at first when I saw the topic, I'm like, can there really be that many movies that take place in a day? And then I'm like,
there are.
Damn, there's a lot of movies that take place in one day.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So my first honorable mention is Falling Down.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, my God. This is the reason that McDonald's switched to their all-day breakfast.
Can you blame them?
Yeah. An amazing scene. It's not meant to be funny, but it turns out to be absolutely hilarious. He just goes absolutely apeshit because of the ridiculousness of it's 11:01 and they won't serve you breakfast because it's past 11.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I've seen videos on Facebook and YouTube of people like going behind the counter and punching people, and I'm like, damn, this is really happening nowadays, just because they got their order wrong.
And they were 20 years too early. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They were predicting the future. Who would have thought?
It is idiocracy at its finest.
Exactly. But it's funny because watching that movie still nowadays, growing up, I had a manager in retail that resembled him in that movie.
Oh, really?
The character's name was Defense. And to this day, I still picture this manager that I had in retail. And it's just like, that was the guy you just didn't want to piss off because I was afraid he was going to go ape shit on you because I kept seeing the movie. But
yeah.
I'm like, nope, he was okay.
It worked out in the end, but this is actually an underrated movie because Robert Duvall's in it, and just a really well done movie.
And we got an Iron Maiden song out of it.
That's right. I forgot.
Man on the Edge from the album that no one wants to admit they listen to, The X Factor.
That's right, Blaze Bayley.
My other honorable mention is Training Day with Denzel Washington.
Yeah, Ethan Hawke.
And it's funny because usually you kind of expect Denzel to be the good guy, but he's not so much of a good guy in that movie.
Shows his range. He can pretty much do whatever he wants.
Yes, he can, and he does. And he does it well most of the time. So.
Yeah, this is a tough one. This is one I can't watch over and over again because it's too intense.
Yeah, there are some movies out there that you can only watch once or twice and then put them to the side for quite a few years. That would be one of them.
Yeah, I can't deny how good it is, though.
I think there's another one on my list that is like that, too, for me. So
good.
We'll see when we get there.
Can't wait.
The next one, though, is one that I can watch over and over again that takes place in a day, and that is Dazed and Confused.
Absolutely. And one of the best movies that about the 70s, even though it was filmed in the 90s.
And I still want to see the other one that Richard Linklater did, but Everybody Wants Some, that was set in the 80s, and I still haven't yet to watch that one.
I think I saw it, and it wasn't that good. I never definitely see it because everyone has their own opinions, but I was disappointed by it.
Okay.
And especially, I love Van Halen, so I mean, you have one terrific title for it, but yeah, it kind of let me down.
Okay.
But definitely check it out because maybe we'll finally disagree.
I think it's on a queue somewhere, so I'm sure I'll watch it eventually.
Okay.
But speaking of disappointing people, I think this one disappointed people, but I personally love this movie, and I find it hilarious, and I can watch this over and over again, and that is Clue.
Yeah, that is one of Malin's favorite movies, and Malin's a regular on this. So yeah, I think it was really genius in a way. It didn't pan out, but coming up with 3 different endings, and so you'd have to have repeat viewing at the theater. Really, a very ingenious type of idea.
Yeah, and I for me, I'll watch it, and then I get so excited at the end when they go to recap everything because it's just, I find it hilarious when you have Tim Curry doing the recapping of it and how he's like beating the hell out of poor Michael McKean.
Oh, I know.
On every scene, I'm like, this is just comedic gold to me.
Do you have it on DVD?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, which is great because you can actually have it has a random ending if you want it to be.
Yeah, you have the random ending, and then of course you have the one where it kind of puts them all together.
That's right. I love doing the random one because you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you never know. Yeah. So we talked about movies that are a little bit intense. Do the Right Thing.
Yeah. I haven't seen this one in a long time, but definitely.
Yeah, and I know it takes place in a day, and it's Spike Lee can be hit or miss to me personally at times, but this movie is just so spot on to me.
Yeah, Danny Aiello, so good.
Yeah, and it's just it's mind blowing to me, but it's not for me a repeat viewing type movie.
No, I'm with you on that
one. Next one though, definitely, I think everybody has seen this multiple times, and it's probably a lot of people's number 2, but I mean number 1, but it's my number 2, and there's a reason for it, and that's Breakfast Club.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's a classic. What more can you say about The Breakfast Club than a pure classic?
I always wanted, and they can't do it now, but a sequel to find out what happens on Monday when they show up,
Yeah. That would have been a cool idea, or even like the postscript at the end.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe it's better that you just kind of have your own idea of what happened to everyone, Yeah,
because then we all probably come up with a different idea of what truly happens, and what happened to Bender and everybody else. So
Exactly. Like Malin always thinks that, oh no, they ended up basically being jerks to each other because that's what happens when you're a kid. Even though you have that moment of bonding, you're going to go back to what you're comfortable with in the long run.
I tend to think they may have done that on the outward surface with their friends around.
Right, exactly.
But I think that deep down they would have still cared about one another, not gone overboard on doing that to one another.
Yeah, and of course the romantic in me thinks, well, him and Molly Ringwald are going to get together, but who knows? Right.
Well, yeah, and then of course, one of them grew up to become a great football player named Johnny Be Good. Right?
Oh man, and one of the worst all-time covers ever. And I love Judas Priest, but terrible.
I agree. I agree. That's a hard one to stomach. But
yeah, and to think that they kind of turned down Top Gun. I forgot what the song was. It was on Turbo.
Reckless from Turbo.
Yeah.
The last track.
Reckless? I think it's Reckless.
Yes. And Reckless.
They didn't want to take it off Turbo, so they didn't give it to the Top Gun soundtrack, and I think they regretted it. So then they agreed to do Johnny Be Good, and we saw how that turned out. So.
Yeah, I think I heard an interview with KK recently about that, and I think the story was that they were already sequencing the record Turbo.
Oh.
And that's when Top Gun came to them asking for the track, and they didn't have anything supposedly in the can to put into the record, even though they supposedly recorded Ram It Down at the same time and had all those extra tracks.
Yeah, exactly, because it was supposed to be called Twin Turbos. So, yeah, right. I wonder if maybe he's... I mean, again, it was a long time ago for him, too. But, yeah, that seems kind of fishy. My guess is they probably didn't think Top Gun was going to do anything. They didn't want to screw up their album, so...
Yeah. Well, we know what history says at that.
Exactly.
All right. And me personally, being a huge Kevin Smith fan, and that's why it's my number one. But it's not Clerks, because we know that takes place in a day too.
That's
but this is Mallrats, the one that gets overlooked.
That's actually my favorite Kevin Smith movie.
It is?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we can't disagree on too much on this one.
No, it's so well done. And as much as I love Clerks, yeah, this is by far my favorite Kevin Smith movie, because Chasing Amy pisses me off because maybe it's Ben Affleck. I don't know. But Mallrats to me it's such a great movie. It's so much fun.
Yeah, and growing up being a comic book guy, I can kind of relate to the Brody Bruce character of not as much, but just kind of the way he was at times. But yeah, there's just some of the things like just the little one-liners that he has. To me, it was hilarious.
That, and you get the debut of Stan Lee making cameos. What a great scene.
Yes. And that was back in the day when DVDs were released and they had the commentaries.
Yes.
That was one of the ones that I would sit there and listen to the commentary of with Kevin Smith and everybody else talking about it. And I found that even more hilarious at times.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually surprised they didn't make him Mallrats too,
I thought he was working on something like that and then decided to go and just do another Jay and Silent Bob movie.
Yeah. Though all the characters they all kind of interweave, even though they're not technically the same. They'll kind of...
Yeah, that's true. And I still can't get that picture of a chocolate pretzel out of my head.
Oh, yeah.
Just so wrong.
It is, but it's so right,
It's also hilarious, yes.
Well, again, thank you so much, Keith. This has been great.
Anytime, Brian. I appreciate it.
All right, we're back with Metal Mike. Welcome back.
Hey, brother. How you been, man?
I'm great. And you have a guest with you. This is like a team up. We're doing like a tag team. So
it is. You're getting two Tylers for the price of one.
I love it.
With me is my nephew, the crusader of metal himself, of thatmetalstation.com, DJ Kane.
Yeah, man, I have a show on That Metal Station.
You have two shows?
Yeah, I have two shows, one on Sunday and one on Thursday. Well, on Sunday it's 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
And on Thursdays it's 3 to 7. And the Thursday show, the Thursday show is an all power metal show. It's just nothing but power metal.
Awesome.
My Sunday show is a little bit of everything.
And what are the titles of those shows?
Crusader of Metal Show and Absolute Power.
Now, the Crusader of Metal Show is his Sunday show where he pretty much plays all kinds of metal. He kind of does like a miniature version of my Friday show.
Okay, cool.
Even though Kane's his own person and does his own thing,
I play music that he can't stand most of the time.
That's not true. And then Thursday is his absolute Power
Every
Show,
once in a
which is
while,
all power metal.
I'll
Awesome.
pop in Justin Bieber, you know.
Yeah, dude. But the Bieber.
Get Bieber favor up in here, man.
That's right. And then Metal Mike, you have 2 shows as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so one is on Tuesdays.
Yeah, with the Tuesday Night Thrash Bash from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Right.
And then my Friday show is the Metal Mike Show, which is from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I play all kinds of metal, and I got a lot of colorful guests. You know, my friend Bildo for Realdo, my older brother David Tyler, a.k.a. Scapegoat, my good friend Dirty Dave, and, of course, the Crusader of Metal himself
From time
shows
to time,
up.
I show up.
Awesome.
So, yeah. It's a lot of fun, man. Station's doing good, and check us out at www.thatmetalstation.com. We got a lot of different DJs, including the one and only Dr. Fuck every Thursday.
Absolutely. And hey, my mom is Dr. Fuck's favorite guest on this show, so he speaks highly of this.
Dr. Fuck ain't alone.
That's
She's
right.
my favorite guest, too. So,
there you go. All right, let's just get right into it this week, and we're going to talk about movies that takes place in one day or one night. Metal Mike, kick us off with your list of your favorite movies that take place in one day.
All right, well, number one, I have probably not just one of my favorite movies that take place in an entire day, but one of my all-time favorite Hitchcock movies. I put it right under Shadow of a Doubt and Vertigo, and that's Rope.
Yes, that's on my list too.
Over this film,
yeah,
I think it's fantastic. The fact that it obviously could have been a play. I think it may have been a play before it became a movie because it all takes place in one room.
Yes,
I believe it was a play, actually.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kane, and I just love it. The performances are great. James Stewart, I mean, how can you go wrong with Jimmy Stewart?
Yeah.
And I do know it was inspired by that one case where these two dudes, they did a thrill kill and ended up getting caught. And just a great film. Yeah, that's my number one.
That's a great one. And Hitchcock hated to shoot on location, so single sets were his favorite, just like Rear Window. Really interesting that he can keep the suspense going and it never left one room. So that just shows you the brilliance of him.
Well, not only that, he was also doing an experimental thing where I forget he was using bigger reels to where they could film longer scenes.
Yes.
And I thought that was just really cool. I saw that on a whole biography or documentary, I should say, on Hitch, and it was really, really cool.
Yeah. All right, let's go next to DJ Kane.
Well, funny enough, it's on my Uncle Mike's list, but my favorite would probably be Falling Down.
Oh, absolutely. That's on my list, too.
That's my number two, actually. I think it's a phenomenal film. It's my favorite, all-time favorite Michael Douglas film. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like War of the Roses, and I love the Romancing the Stone, Jewel Gone. Those are all good movies. But for me, for my money, this was his greatest performance. I absolutely love this movie. I mean, Robert Duvall was fantastic. And I felt sorry for the guy. Even though he was fucked up, I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Because there's just points in that movie where if people had just left him the fuck alone, I don't think he would have went off on his nut like he did.
Yeah.
My number three would be Clerks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. I kind of feel like me and him are kindred spirits, even though the man's never met me, but we were born in both the same year. We both love heavy metal music. Well, I mean, Kevin likes all kinds of music, to be fair, but he's a metalhead.
Yep.
And we're both comic book nerds. So it's like, first time I saw Clerks, I was like, whoa, this movie speaks for me. This movie is about me. I loved it, man. I thought it was fantastic.
It's also very cool that it was in black and white, for like a newer movie.
Well, he did that mainly because he had no choice. He financed that film completely himself. He maxed out the credit cards.
That's right. Yeah.
Everything. Sold his comic book collection, and black and white was cheaper, so that's why he opted to go that way. It wasn't because it was an artistic expression. It was just out of needs.
But actually, it worked out perfectly because of it.
We're on number 4 now, right?
Yep.
Dazed and Confused.
Oh, yeah. We're all on the same page here. I picked all these too.
I think you're going to like my list, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Dazed and Confused. I love that movie. It's a total love letter to that era. You look at that movie and just the time capsule and the music, and it was my childhood, my young childhood. I wouldn't say it was my formative years. Obviously, the 80s were my formative years. Very funny film, and I love how a lot of those actors went on to bigger and better things. Gotta love Dazed and Confused. Like I said, just a total love letter to that time period. And I love it, man.
What do you have next?
Your all-time favorite movie, my brother from another mother, Airplane.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, I love this movie. What can be said about Airplane that hasn't already been said? I mean, it's one of those.
It started a whole new
subgenre film.
Yeah,
that's right.
The spoof or parody film. I mean, it's the first.
Scary Movie owes its existence to Airplane.
Oh, and Naked Gun and all those movies, Spaceballs, yeah.
Well, I thought that was always interesting because it was the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrams that did Airplane together, and then they split up. The Zucker brothers go on to do the Naked Gun series. Abrams goes on to do the Hot Shots movies. I loved them all. I thought they were all hilarious.
Yeah.
And, of course, you pointed out, Kane, you have the scary movies, and they've done superhero movies. They've done a lot of them are not that good, really.
Superhero movie.
They did. Yeah, it was
It was awful.
But you are right. I mean, it gave birth to an entire subgenre of filmmaking or whatever you want to call it. I mean, Airplane was the original.
Slapstick.
And the best.
No, not slapstick. What is it called?
Spoof,
parody, satire. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a great film. It's one of those movies, too, like a while back you'd ask me about movies I quote. We're always quoting Airplane.
Oh, absolutely.
All the time. You know. All right, number 6.
Yes.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
It's got to be on the list.
Oh, it's got to be, man. It's one of those quintessential 80s movies. I mean, you have certain films that were put out during that time period that, to me, encapsulate that decade. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is definitely one of those films, man.
Without a doubt.
Love it.
Yep.
Great movie. Matthew Broderick was great. What's the guy's name who plays Cameron? He was great.
Yeah.
Mia Sara, which is interesting. I was just listening to your high school movies episode, Brian, and you guys had mentioned Mia Sara and that you said the only movie you'd ever seen her in was Time Cop. There was another movie that she did that I actually love a lot. It's called Legend.
Yeah.
With Tom Cruise and Tim Curry, directed by Ridley Scott.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that movie. But yeah, I don't even think she's acting anymore, man. I think she's just completely dropped out.
Yeah, but man, what few movies she was in? Well, Time Cop not so much, even though I like it. But Ferris Bueller, hell, that's
right. I mean, you're talking about films that kind of made their mark on cinema, man. I mean, Ferris Bueller's Day Off is a classic and will live forever.
That's right. Though it's kind of like the girl in Valley Girl, the main girl. She really wasn't in much after that. Or even you saw Just One of the Guys, that cult classic from that 80s movie.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Dude, that's one of my dad's favorite movies.
Yeah, and she really wasn't. Joyce Heiser wasn't really in much after that either.
Die Hard.
Yep.
Quintessential, not just a great one-day movie, but just a great film.
Yeah.
I love it, and I do consider it a Christmas movie. And one of the things, I got to be honest with you, I'm one of those guys, believe it or not, that was not a big Bruce Willis fan until I saw this movie.
Yeah, you told me that.
Well, he did that show called Moonlighting, which as I've gotten older, I have a lot more appreciation for. But at the time, I didn't like his character. He was a fucking smart-ass, smug motherfucker, and I didn't like him. So I thought, this guy is going to be a fucking tough guy? Really? Like, I was very skeptical, but my friends kept telling me about how great it was. So I finally checked it out, and I was just blown away. I mean, not only is it a great action flick, but just a great performance by Bruce. Like the part where, the villain played awesomely by Alan Rickman, which I love him, man. And it's just a great film, great dialogue. It's funny in parts. It's serious in parts. It's got plenty of action. Probably one of the greatest action films ever made.
One of them, yeah. All right, what's next on the list, guys?
Harold and Kumar Go to White House.
Of course.
Instant classic. This movie was hilarious. I love it. I've seen it several times. I mean, Neil Patrick Harris stole the show. Following that, number 9, The Breakfast Club.
That's absolutely got to be on the list.
What can I say about this movie? This movie was a big deal. I mean, because I was at that age, man. It just, I was right there at that perfect age when this movie came out, and I still to this day love that movie. I think the cast was great, the dialogue was great, the acting, John Hughes' direction was seamless. It's just an amazing film. The Goonies, number 10.
Yeah, definitely.
Got to give the Goonies some love. I mean, you got a lot of great interaction with the characters. Josh Brolin, man, was in that movie. Sean Astin was in that movie. A lot of child actors, really.
Corey Feldman.
Which I know will be a future episode.
That's right.
Went on to bigger and better things,
yeah.
So love the Goonies, and Joe Pantoliano was hilarious in it with the brothers, and then of course that sweet, apparently in real life was the sweetest lady you'd ever want to meet, but what was their names? The Ficellis?
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, the Fratellis
Mom
were.
Ficelli was great. I love her in Throw Mama from the
Exactly. She what an actress. She definitely had that typecasted. Right.
Yeah, I love Throw Mama. Owen doesn't have any friends. He's fat and stupid.
Do you know who played Sloth?
No, I don't.
So he's an ex-Oakland Raider. He passed away, but it was John Matuzak.
No way.
Yeah, that was John Matuzak.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That makes me love him even more.
I know.
And what were you going to say, Ken?
Another movie that I think belongs on the list. I'm not entirely sure it takes place that day, but I think it does. And that's Jumanji.
Oh, that's that's a good pick.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ken.
Yeah, they'd be on my list especially, man.
Yeah.
Well,
it has Robin Williams in it, man.
Well, who don't fucking... If you don't love Robin Williams, there's something wrong with
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, anyway, honorable mentions. These are my honorable mentions. Groundhog Day. Yeah. Adventures in Babysitting with one of the loves of my life, Elizabeth Shue.
Yep.
Dread. Not the original Judge, just Dread.
Yeah.
12 Angry Men.
Absolutely.
American Graffiti. Dog Day Afternoon. Escape from New York. Night of the Living Dead. Training Day. And Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Any one of those films could be in a lot of different categories, obviously, but I felt like, well, they count. They all take place within a 24-hour period, so I threw them on there.
Awesome. As always, thank you so much, Metal Mike, and thank you, DJ Kane.
All right, man. Thanks for having us on, Brian.
All right.
Yeah. Keep rocking and stay metal, brother.
Okay, we're back with loser producer Lindley. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So
happy
this
to be
week,
back.
I can tell. It's like it's like going to the dentist to try to get you to come to this place. You know, it's pulling teeth.
I like the dentist. No,
do you?
I'm just kidding. No, I don't.
You're one of the few. Well, then you should love this.
I
interview.
like the dentist when I don't have any work done. It's fine.
Yeah, it's just a routine checkup.
Just a cleaning and a checkup. Right. Totally fine. Yeah.
I'm always amazed about people that are like totally mortified by going to the dentist.
Like just for a checkup?
Yeah, they just don't like to.
Maybe it's the fear of having to do something. I
always heard that dentists have the highest suicide rate too.
Oh my god, that's very tragic.
Because your whole life is this little hole.
I know, but it seems so not tragic, right? Like you're doing good. You're fixing people's teeth. Nobody is going to be like dying. I mean, I guess some people could die at the dentist, but it'd be pretty rare.
Yeah, but there you go.
Very strange.
This is why we have you on, because you never know. So, for this week's subject, your favorite movies that take place in one day or one night.
One day. I can only think of one.
Okay. What is it?
It's called The Day Trippers.
I've never heard of it. Is it like kind of based on the Beatles song or no?
Maybe. I don't think so. I think it's just the terminology. Day Trippers.
When did it come out and what is it about?
I would say the late 90s.
Okay.
I think specifically 97. It's
I've never heard of it.
independent. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Independent film. Hope Davis. Liev Schreiber, Parker Posey. It's kind of like that heyday of indie films with those actors. I do like all those actors. I mean, sort of. Parker Posey is more. I don't know. She's interesting. She's so disturbing. I really did love Hope Davis at the time. Hope Davis was kind of like the indie it girl. She was in a lot of indie films. She was in Next Stop Wonderland.
Okay.
And she actually was in a movie like in the late 80s or the early 90s. And she was very young. I mean, I think she even played a teenager.
She's blonde?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's blonde.
Oh, she's American Splendor. Yeah. I remember with...
yeah, she's really pretty. Very, who does she look like? She kind of looks like... yeah, that's Hope Davis. I mean, kind of like your typical pretty blonde.
Yeah.
Next Stop Wonderland is another, that's a movie she was in that's really good. And I can't remember the name of the movie she was in the late 80s.
Oh, she was in About Schmidt?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe, yeah. I think she never crossed over fully. I think she then... Oh, she kind of fizzled out. Where is she today? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm glad we brought it up. This is why we have damn good movie memories. We have no idea what happened to her.
What happened to Hope Davis?
I'm
sure she's in some TV show that...
It looked like she was in a Marvel movie with Captain America and Iron Man. So.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so...
Day Trippers. What is it about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... I mean, I think it's her husband... She finds out or suspects her husband is having an affair. Mm-hmm. So then she goes like with her whole family. They trek into New York for the day and then, hijinks ensue.
So it's
looking
a comedy.
For her husband to confront him. Yeah, I would say definitely a comedy. Not even a black comedy. It's pretty comedy, drama. I mean, some drama. I mean, yeah, just the dynamics of the parents taking her. And I think Parker Posey's her sister, and her sister's boyfriend is Liev Schreiber. So yeah, that's just that.
Parker Posey was super funny back in the day. Like,
yeah,
she always played that kind of crazy.
Her in Party Girl. She still is really weird, right? Did you see that Lost in Space remake?
No,
it's a Netflix remake, Lost in Space. So she basically plays Dr. Smith.
Oh, really?
Her name is Dr. Smith, but she's playing Doctor, like just a bad, bad character.
I loved her in Best in Show.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
she's amazing at Best in Show.
And she even had a bit. She was super bitchy in Dazed and Confused.
Oh yeah,
she was
the
senior of the But she's been in so many things, and she's just great as that.
Yeah, she was also kind of like the indie.
Yeah.
The indie girl, it girl at that time, kind of at the same time as Hope Davis, I would say.
So, any other movies that?
No, I don't remember any other movies that took place in a day. I mean, that's the first thing that came to mind.
Well, that's all we wanted.
When you said that, so it was right top of my mind. I didn't research it.
I didn't ask you to do a ton. I just needed to get you on the podcast, and so nobody else, I don't think, is going to pick this. So this is great.
It's probably an obscure film. Yeah, it's not, but it's really enjoyable. I would recommend it.
Well, thank you.
Have a couple of hours.
You've been upgraded to super producer Lindley again. Thank you so much.
I came up with that. Okay.
All right, we're back with Samantha, and she's melting because we're in the hottest room ever. So we'll see how this episode goes. How are you?
Oh, good.
So
haven't been on here in a little while.
I know, but we're gonna. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, because we skip westerns and courtroom movies because those aren't your go-to.
Those are not my go-tos. You can't get me to watch a courtroom anything.
I know. So, but at least for this, movies that take place in one day or one night, this seemed to be a little bit more up your alley.
Yeah, I think because these movies, they cover lots of genres, which I've discovered when I was researching for this. And yeah, it's a cool subject. I think I might have talked about a couple of these on previous episodes.
Well, we have almost 120 episodes now, so this is good. So repeating is okay.
I know, that's crazy. So let's see. I don't know. Should I start with like something that's an older classic or a foreign movie? What do you want to hear about?
This is right up your alley.
I have a few.
Okay, let's do exactly how you said. Let's start with the oldest movie first, and then we'll work our way through.
So I think the oldest one I chose, and I am pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, and edit this out if I'm wrong, but I was looking it up, and I think Arsenic and Old Lace is all in a day.
That seems about right. I think you're right.
Because it's just those exploits.
Yeah.
All happened.
Like, I don't remember them, like... Yeah, no, I think that counts.
Yeah, it was on a list.
You found it. Okay, then we'll give it to you.
Because it wasn't the first one that came to mind, but it's one of my favorite Cary Grant movies.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait a second, I think so. And I know I've talked about it on this episode before, but I wanted to give it a shout out because if it is something that happened in one day.
Well, that, and it's, I believe, Lindley's favorite Cary Grant movie, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it's basically about Cary Grant. He plays a writer. This was made in, like, the early 40s. I think it's based on a play. I could be wrong. But, yeah, it basically happened. It's about these... It's a dark comedy, and then there's some like murders.
Yeah,
and
it's very screwball. Which is
it's funny, and Cary Grant kind of gets stuck in the middle of all of this nonsense, because he is in love with this woman, and then he gets involved with everything.
Who is the actress's name?
I'm looking it up right now. Her name's Priscilla Lane.
Yes.
I don't know what else she's ever been in. Her family is kind of crazy, and it's just a really fun little like screwball as you said. But I call it I say dark comedy.
Well, that's back then. Screwball comedies were kind of like Bringing Up Baby and stuff like that. She was in Priscilla Lane. She was in The Roaring Twenties with James Cagney, and I don't know if that's the famous where he pushed the grapefruit in the woman's face. That scene. I don't know if that was her or not, but that's That's one of the famous films. And Saboteur, which was also, that's an early Hitchcock film.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was in that too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it's a really fun movie, and it just kind of follows him, and then they get married, and then he goes to like meet her family, and I think it's in this like creepy house.
Yeah.
That's what I remember most about the movie was like the house and the setting.
Which I told you is why it was probably a play first, because it really doesn't.
Yeah, it was. It was, and so it's just poor Cary Grant is just trying to get by, and
it's true.
He thought, I'm getting married, and now it's like there's bodies.
That's right, all over the place.
Stuff. So yeah, I want to rewatch it because I didn't ever watch it. I didn't notice at the time that it was like a one-day thing, but I think the majority of the plot just takes place in like one evening. Yeah, I think.
I seem to remember that too.
And then someone gets like the cops show up at the end and everything. So
that's a great pick.
My very poor summary.
Yeah,
but just had to mention it.
Bottom line, go see the movie too, because it's really worth your time.
It's really fun, and there's an interesting thing. I just read that Cary Grant thought it was like his worst performance ever, one of his worst performances, but it's one of my favorites because it was when he was still pretty young and he wasn't playing like the suave, like kind of funny guy.
Yeah.
He was a little more like bumbling and dorky.
Well, that's why I really liked him in Bringing Up Baby, because that's exactly how he is in there. And Katharine Hepburn's the one that's all over the place. He's just trying to reel her in. So, yeah. So what is the foreign film?
So the foreign one, you've probably never heard of this.
Probably not, but that's why you have me on. Yeah.
It is a cool movie. If you want to watch something that is more of like a visual experience and it's not plot driven at all, really, but it's a cool movie. It's called Cleo from 5 to 7.
Okay. And
it's one of the like landmark French New Wave movies. So it came out in 1962. Okay. And it's was made by this director. Her name's Agnes Varda, and she's actually still making movies.
Oh, wow.
She's very old now, and she was a really well-known director in France at the time, like in that world, and she's made movies consistently about very strange things. Often they're about like society and documentary-esque.
Oh, okay.
So they're not your traditional like film with like a cast and a storyline. They're kind of these like real life movies.
Now, how did you get into her?
So I saw one of her movies in college first, and that's when I heard about her.
Got it.
And then I've seen a few movies. I think she even made a movie like last year.
Oh, wow.
And it was nominated like at the Oscars and stuff. Even.
So for this movie, it's just one day, or is it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this film, it could be her first, no, it's not her first movie, but it is, this one is like it's a more of a traditional movie than some of her more like modern ones. And so it's about a woman, her name's Cleo, and she lives this very fancy life in Paris, and the whole movie is basically her waiting to hear test results from the doctor. Okay. So it's kind of like a countdown of the clock in a way. So you just see her kind of going about her day, and like she sees her friends.
So we don't know what's wrong with her either.
No. Okay. No. So at the beginning, well, maybe we do. It's been a few years since I saw this, but you know that she's waiting to hear from her doctor and to see if she has cancer or not.
Okay.
So eventually she does find out.
Okay.
At the end, but it's this really cool feeling of a movie because you kind of know this big thing at the beginning, and then nothing really happens in between. So
it's almost like you're experiencing with her.
Yeah. And it's a short movie, and I think it actually it's real time. So I'm just looking up the details here, but I didn't remember the exact times. But it starts with her, it starts at 5 p.m., and then she has to wait until 6:30.
Oh, okay.
So, and really the movie's only like a little over an hour.
Hour and a half, yeah.
So it aligns, and a very pretty movie, and like she goes and tries on clothes and like hats and all this
So
stuff.
this is right up your alley,
but
yeah.
it's very like sad at the same time because you know
Something's
something's going to happen, and there's a bit of action and some weird like weird references to other things. Like movies during this time period were very much into like politics and like social issues. So yeah, and then I forgot about this. There's a really cool little bit in the middle. It's a silent film.
Oh.
Like so it's not a traditional movie. There's like weird little artsy moments, but there's like a silent movie within this movie, and then the director Jean-Luc Godard makes an appearance. And then because all these people were friends during that time, so that was like a moment in the movie, and there's stuff about like Algerian War and existentialism, but it's a really neat movie. And yeah, again, it's kind of like this real time, just an evening.
Yeah. Well, if you didn't know, Samantha always gives great recommendations, so I always go and watch the movies you recommend. So this is good because nobody has recommended this.
Yeah, and that's why. So it's called Cleo from 5 to 7 because it's really her day from like 5 to 7, and it's probably on. You can probably even find it on YouTube. Yeah, but it's a really cool, unique movie, and it's just nice to look at, and you don't really have to pay attention.
Yeah. No, great. No, good pick, because this is what this podcast is about. Are there any other ones that you came up with?
I did. I also briefly wanted to talk about Rope.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
The Hitchcock example. Yeah. I think that's the only movie of his that fits into this. Yeah,
because he definitely has movies that take place in a room, just like Rear Window.
Yeah.
Or one place. But this is, it's literally all basically one night and all in one room.
Yeah. And I was doing some research about it, and they actually, you can read, well, I'm just on Wikipedia, but you can read more details about it. But he wanted it to look like it was filmed in one take.
Yes.
But technically they couldn't at the time, so he had to film like long takes and then pause. So it still looks like it's all in one, but they do have to like move around. And it's cool. On Wikipedia, they have a little chart that tells you when like the segments take place.
That's great. Yeah, it is. There are shots there where you can definitely tell. I mean, it's one shot, like, and it goes for a long time too. So those are difficult.
I think that's kind of one of the coolest things I like about this type of movie, when it's such a short time period they take place, when you can also film it in a way where it looks like real time. Like if it's a movie that takes place in just one night, and it feels like it really is just one night.
It's going on,
not that they filmed it over a month.
Exactly.
It feels more authentic.
And Hitchcock was notorious for not wanting to do a lot of on-site shooting and things like that. So this totally fit his type of film style.
Yeah, but Rope, it's not one of my preferred Hitchcock movies. When I saw it for the first time, I was just kind of...
And you don't really like Jimmy Stewart either.
And bored. He's fine.
Okay, yeah.
He's nice.
But he's not one of your favorites.
It's not. I know. He's a good actor. His voice always kind of bothers me.
Yeah, he does kind of have a Mr. Robberpot. Yeah.
But the plot was cool, and I like, again, how... kind of like Arsenic and Old Lace has kind of like a play feel to it.
Oh, this definitely does. Yeah. And it's definitely dark. And it has comedic elements
so they're
to it.
very similar. You could definitely do a double header. You could watch Rope and Arsenic and One Lace in one night.
There you go.
That would be a fun one. And then I do want to briefly just mention 2 more movies.
Sure.
I've talked about these before on the series, but more modern movies is the Before Sunrise Sunset duo. I have not seen the third in the trilogy. I've talked about that before. It doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
So these are like quintessential. This is just a moment in these people's lives,
right? And
they're romantic dramas.
And it's interesting. They have 3 movies that'll basically take place in one day.
They're all they all have the same idea. So the 2 people meet or reunite, and then they spend time together, and then they leave.
Yeah.
At least the first 2. So the ones I've seen. But yeah, I think the first one is the more of a classic because it really was a special movie.
Yeah.
But I really do like the second one. It was filmed in Paris. And I'm a weird Francophile, so anything that's filmed in Paris, I'll watch it.
That's right. Right.
But yeah, they're great movies because I just like the conversation feels really natural and they just kind of go on with the day. And
so, will you ever watch the third one, or are you just like
maybe?
Yeah.
I probably will. I think what happened is when it came out, I missed it, and then I just never got around to it. And then I read that it was just like about like a marriage falling apart, and it sounded sad.
Yeah.
I like the first two because the first one is like these strangers meet on a train, and then they have a day together, and it's kind of like a cute beginning to a romance. And then the second movie is about they haven't seen each other in like almost 10 years, and they reunite briefly. But yeah, then the third one is like, oh, they ended up getting married, and then it all fell apart. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't want to see that.
Got it.
I'd rather keep the two happy ones.
So maybe two murder movies, and then just finish it off with After Sunset, right?
Yeah. Or before sunrise and before sunset.
Yeah.
So before sunrise, it takes place in like the evening and nighttime.
Oh, got it.
That's why it's called Before Sunrise.
Got it.
Because they meet before sunrise.
Right.
And then before sunset is they spend the day together. So and then
it all falls apart.
And I think the third one is before midnight.
Before midnight.
So I guess that's happening at nighttime.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then what's the last one?
That's it.
That's it. Those are great.
Hit on 5.
Awesome.
1, 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
5 movies.
All right. Well, we're melting here. So thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks.
We're back with my other brother, Brian. Welcome back.
Hello.
So we're going to talk about movies that take place in either one day or one night, but within a 24-hour time frame. And so there's actually more movies than you think that do this.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. And
Yeah.
it's hard to narrow down. And I don't have a top 5 list. I have more, probably like top 10 almost.
Do whatever you need, yeah.
So, again, in no order, because I'm tired of it.
Exactly.
I order lists for a living, so sometimes I just don't want to do that.
I totally understand where you come from on that.
Yeah. So, all right. So first on my list is Run, Lola, Run. Which is
yeah, that's a really underrated. I forgot about
like
this.
99.
Yeah,
it was like late 90s or early 2000s. German movie, but it's very action oriented. So if you're a little bit turned off by subtitles, you don't have to read too much.
No, that's true.
It's kind of a thriller movie, and the catch is that it's repeated 3 times, but every variation it's kind of like if she picked a different path, her life would change in different ways. So. It has to do with her getting a phone call from her boyfriend who needs, is in trouble with some drug dealer guys because he didn't bring the money on time. He was like a bag man. He lost the bag on the train or something, or it got stolen. So then she's got to go run, like get money from, basically rob a bank or something and bring him money, or he's gonna die. So she's got to run like she has
literally,
literally. So she's got 20 minutes to, I think it's 20 minutes or whatever time. And so it almost takes place in real time as well. Not only just within one day, but it's almost a real time movie. And then, after the first one, it ends a certain way, and then it repeats, and then she does something slightly different.
Right. And
then the third time is the final. And the movie doesn't necessarily say that any particular ending was the right one. And maybe you kind of assume that the last one is, just because it's maybe
the end.
It's the last one, and it's maybe the happiest. But I don't know. It's just a really creative, clever movie, and you don't see many like that.
No, how did you discover it?
I think just some friends told me about it, or maybe I saw a preview of it. I think I went to go see some movie at an independent movie house.
Yeah, it's like an art house type theater.
And this was a preview in front of it. And
okay.
It's really cool. So I eventually watched it. It was great.
Yeah, I saw.
I own a copy.
Oh, okay, cool. I saw it on DVD. An ex-girlfriend of mine was way into it, and then she's the one that introduced it to me. I would have never seen it, so I'm glad
you wouldn't know. You
wouldn't
know it. Franca Potente is the actress, and she's great.
Yeah,
she was in one of the Bourne movies too. I think the first or second one.
You're right.
The love interest, or
I remember when I saw her in that. I'm like, oh yeah, there's Lola.
There's Lola.
Good pick.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so next is Groundhog Day.
Yeah, the ultimate one-day movie.
Yeah. The same day over and over and over. I don't know. It's just a comedy classic, I think, and maybe. I think it's my wife. Someone I'm trying to remember, and I feel bad for not remembering if it was my wife. But I think she has a hard time.
She doesn't listen anyway. So.
She does sometimes.
Oh, good.
Lisa, I'm sorry if you told me this and I forgot. Someone was saying
she has to now. I played the Grateful Dead for her.
She loved that you did that.
Good.
She loves the Dead.
Awesome.
Someone told me, I think it was Lisa, that she just finds this movie a little bit uncomfortable because she doesn't like the cringy humor in it sometimes, and the fact that it repeats over and over is a little bit annoying. But
some people say like he's manipulative, like he's doing this like not necessarily for his own, not for the good of everyone, but his own gain, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely trying to win at his own game. Although I think by the end, I think there's enough in it that it seems like he's doing
genuine.
He's kind of genuine. I mean, he is getting a lot of benefit out of it himself. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what it's trying to say. Like, you benefit when you help others. I don't know. It's very. I think the ending is ultimately altruistic, but for most of the time, it's just him being super selfish.
Yeah.
And increasing that, and then figuring out how to manipulate, this kind of time loop that he's in, to get things to his advantage, and then that backfires as well. So I don't know. It's a Bill Murray classic. It's great.
Yeah, and really ahead of its time and quirky especially for a late '80s, early '90s movie.
Yeah. It's one I actually saw twice in the theater. I think.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
Really...
I always just laugh at Phil, the one annoying salesman.
Yeah. All right. So next I have a duo of Die Hard and Die Hard 2.
Ah, yes.
And this probably could be on we did the other podcast in workplaces. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
Well, it's not really his workplace, but it is a workplace movie.
Yeah, nowadays it's like kind of maybe more prevalent now with the hostage situation than anything.
Yeah. So I don't know. These are, classic action movies with Bruce Willis.
Do you consider it a Christmas movie, the first one?
The first one I don't, just because it's barely, it's a Christmas party and you can understand that, but I don't think of it as it's in LA for crying out loud. If it were in maybe New York or Chicago where there was snow outside and that had something to do with the movie, maybe. Or there were more Christmas decorations somehow used in the plot. I just don't consider it a Christmas movie. Here's a
fun trivia. The guy that's doing coke in Die Hard 1, who's kind of the obnoxious guy. Did you ever see Supergirl? The movie with Helen Slater?
Yeah, I saw it a long time ago.
That's the guy in it that's constantly falling in love with Supergirl and everything. So I was like, why have I seen this guy? I'm like, yep,
so that's what he
graduated
the
cokehead from Die Hard. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. We dig deep here.
What a great career that is.
Exactly.
Poor guy. Yeah, so Die Hard is my favorite, but Die Hard 2 I think is probably my second favorite of those.
Really? Instead of 3?
Yeah, I don't. I like Samuel L. Jackson a lot, but I don't know. I didn't love that they brought Hans' brother back. I didn't think that was a great idea. Okay. I kind of like 4 better than 3 with Justin Long.
4 is underrated. I like it, and 5 is terrible.
I never saw 5 on purpose.
5 is like the Rocky 5 of Die Hard.
So maybe if I were a kid when I watched Rocky 5 a lot, but
yes. Eventually, when we do Rocky 5, you'll be on.
All right, I'm gonna comment on how bad that movie is.
No, you actually appreciate it.
I appreciated it, but it was bad. It was like a love to hate it kind of movie.
Yeah.
Die Hard 2 I like a lot. I didn't see Die Hard in the theater. I was too young. My parents didn't want me to see it. It was too violent at the time. Although I saw it later on video, and I think it probably lost something from that. Because I don't know, it's a cool movie to see on the big screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I did see Die Hard 2 in the theater. I was probably in high school or something, so I was old enough that my mom would buy me tickets and let me go. With my friends, so that was good. And that one I think of more as a Christmas movie. Just because it is in the snow and there's a lot to do with the snow.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's the airport Die Hard, right?
The airport.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a good one. And then I have a group of movies that are all kind of a theme where it's all kind of teens hanging out together.
Okay.
So Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Absolutely.
Breakfast Club. American Graffiti.
Yep.
Dazed and Confused,
yep.
and Superbad. So all these take place in either over a day or within one night.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of misadventures that teens have.
I think
different eras too. You got the 80s and the 60s and
70s.
70s, yeah. So
I think Ferris Bueller. That's my number one. It says day in the title.
Exactly. It's the easiest one.
But again, we've talked about it a million times on this podcast. But it is one. It might be John Hughes' best For
I probably would agree with that.
Yeah.
That's my favorite of his for sure.
Yeah, and it might be his favorite too.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Ferris is a great character, although kind of a jerk, but
like
you
a
look back
lovable
at
jerk.
it. Yeah.
Well, as a kid, he was a lot of fun, but I think I probably identify more with Cameron now.
Oh yeah, totally.
Than Ferris. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just being dragged along.
Exactly. But you have fun in the end.
Yeah,
you still appreciate Ferris.
So yeah, that's all. I don't know if I have any other comments about any of those. They're all great movies, and classics, and I hope you will check them out if you haven't seen any of those already.
Yeah, if you're younger, you might not have seen.
Yeah, you might not have seen American Graffiti, so that one's worth it because it was made in the 70s, but it was about the late 50s, where it was basically
early 60s, yeah,
or early 60s when George Lucas was in high school.
Yeah,
kind of
grew up in Modesto.
So you kind of want to make a kind of a. It almost plays like a documentary as well. So he kind of wanted to recreate his teen years, like cruising around the town, hanging out with his buds. So
and fun trivia on this one. One of it might have been Harrison Ford's first movie.
I think so. Yeah, he has a kind of a cameo in that one.
Yeah, he's kind of a badass. Yeah, and you barely see his face. I mean, most of the time. So
Bob Falfa.
There you go.
Nemesis to one of the characters.
One of the main hot rod guy who's basically hanging around with Mackenzie Phillips.
Yeah,
not by choice, but he just kind of stumbled upon her. But it's fun.
Water there, but
very young Suzanne Summers, who's the blonde that Richard Dreyfuss keeps trying
Cindy Williams in that.
Cindy Williams. Yeah,
Richard Dreyfuss.
Ron Howard. And Toad.
Oh, right.
He's a Toad, yeah. God, what's his name? He's got 3 names. He was in Never Cry Wolf. He was in the Buddy Holly story.
Yeah.
You know him. He's got glasses.
And he was in Untouchables, too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's a really good at character actor.
Darn it. I forget his name. But yeah, he was good.
Yeah. It was a really well done movie. And actually, this is one where I could do the soundtrack for. I should get my mom to do this one.
Great, great sound. I have it. It's a double album, so it's all these 50s hits.
Perfect. Yeah, Wolfman Jack's on it. And everything. Yeah, who's in the movie too.
Yeah, the movie it kind of is it's just like a soundtrack playing over their lives.
Exactly.
It's all in one night right before the main characters are going off to college.
Right.
It's great.
Which is why they should have never made a sequel because they do give you what happens in the end.
It's like
and then they make a sequel that's terrible.
Let's cash in.
Yeah.
No, please don't.
Awful. Never see that. Yeah.
So
that's yours?
That's my list.
Awesome. As always, thanks, Brian. All right, it's been a while, but she's back, and we're happy to have her back. And it's Rachel. Welcome back.
Hello, thank you.
So we're going to talk about movies that take place in one day or one night, but it has to be within a 24-hour period.
Okay.
And you came up with 2 movies, I think.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And let's see if it's in the common picks, but we'll see. This should be an interesting one.
I think one of them is, and one of them might not be. They're very different movies, I've realized. But the first one I wanted to talk about was, it came out a couple of years ago. It was Southside with You.
I haven't heard of this.
Yeah, it was the movie about how Barack and Michelle Obama's first date.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So who are the actors that portrayed them?
Tika Sumpter was was Michelle Obama. And then, what was his name? Parker. The guy who played Obama was really good. What was his name? Parker Sawyers.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really nice. I saw the movie on a date. But it was really funny because other people in the theater didn't know that the whole movie was one day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but when it ended, they were surprised. They were like, wait, where's the rest of the movie? And then they realized they've just spent, an hour and a half or whatever watching one day.
So is it a true story or is it kind of loosely based on?
I think it's mostly true.
Okay.
I think it's largely based on how their first date. But I don't know if specific details are true or not.
So how did they meet? Like, was this in college or is it?
Yeah, they were, yes.
Well, the short answer is yes, they met in college.
Barack was working at a law firm, and Michelle was a lawyer at the firm.
Okay.
I think. At least that's how it is in the movie.
So she was higher up in the
yes.
In the law firm. Okay.
Yeah, she was his supervisor at least in the movie.
Interesting. So where did they go for their first date?
They went.
You can't cover your mouth when you're doing a podcast.
Right. They went to an art center and then a community meeting where Barack was giving a speech, and that was like kind of a climactic part in the movie.
Got it.
And then they go see Do the Right Thing.
Oh, okay. So this is 1988?
9.
Or 89? Yeah.
89.
Okay.
And then they go get ice cream.
There you go, like a traditional movie day.
Yeah.
Type of very cool.
Yeah, but it was a sweet movie. I really liked it, and the performance, it was really well acted. The performances were really good.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's just two people hanging out, in a day, it feels very like pleasant. I guess is because there's only so much conflict that can come up in one event,
right.
And if that event is a date, it's sort of like there's not too much like farce or weird silly
right.
stuff that happens. It's just like a nice movie of people spending time with each other, and it was just it's very sweet.
Yeah, nice and pleasant.
Sweet.
So, do you know how long they dated before they actually got married?
No, not off the top of my head.
All right, well, we'll have the crack research staff come back and do that. Okay, so what is the other one?
12 Angry Men.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yep.
So you have seen this.
I have seen this.
Okay.
I saw it in high school in my AP government class. We watched.
So it had to be a school thing.
Yeah, we watched a lot of movies. My teacher in that class was really funny. We watched an episode of The Simpsons every week that like related to government topics. And then we also watched kind of classic historically significant movies.
Okay.
So 12 Angry Men, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Dr. Strangelove, things like that.
You should have watched Inherit the Wind, which was the Monkey Scopes trial. So actually, I think I watched that. And yeah, but then again, I watched they showed us Tombstone, which is about the Old West. So yes, different eras. But yeah, I mean that's 12 Angry Men. Really interesting to see how the jury system works.
Yeah, and I thought it was. Because I think it's the case with a lot of these movies that take place in a very short period of time, they kind of feel more like a play when you're watching them, because it's all one act, basically. Yeah. Or at least in this movie, it was Southside With You has different scenes and stuff, so it feels more like a movie. But 12 Angry Men is like a bottle episode kind of a thing. It's just them in the room, and just the watching everything unfold the way it did, and it was phenomenally acted. And too, it was just so riveting. And normally, I'm not the type of person who's that interested in seeing a movie about 12 white dudes talking,
right?
And
black and white.
Well, I don't mind the black and white part, but it's just, it was an interesting slice of culture, I guess. It would be interesting to see how it would be done now with maybe a more
Have you served on a jury before?
Twice.
Okay, and you've been in the deliberation room and
once. Because I was an alternate the second time.
Other one, yeah.
So
it is fascinating. It is pretty true to how it goes. I mean, there will be times when you're basically having to do a cell job to get a unanimous decision
with a bunch of people you don't know.
But you basically. It is very interesting. I don't want to call it speed dating, but it's like you really develop a relationship with certain people. Quickly.
The jury bond is real because you're all unified in your general annoyance. And unwillingness to be there. The first time I was on a jury, I was 19 and or 18. It was after my first summer. It was my first summer home from college. I was 19, and. It was fine because I was unemployed that summer. I wasn't doing anything, and it was only half days because it was a civil case. And at the particular courthouse I was in, civil cases are Monday through Thursday from like 8:30 to 1. And I wasn't doing anything else anyway. And the trial was only about a week, and so at the end of the week, I had something to keep me occupied for some days, and then $80 that I didn't have before.
That's right.
And when you're 19, that's pretty nice.
And you get to. For me, it was fascinating just seeing the whole process.
It was very cool. Yeah, it was really cool, and met some interesting people on the jury too. I spent more time with the people on the jury that I was on the second time around, which was only like the next year, or 2 years later. So I was on 2 juries before I was 22 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I'm hoping it'll be. I mean, I don't know. I enjoyed it, but it was.
So were you the youngest person each time?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, definitely the first time, and I believe so also the same.
So that's why I also find it fascinating because you could be anywhere from 18 to 90 or older because and that to me is really. That's fun, I think, in a way, or at least for lack of a better term.
I mean, it's a good opportunity to talk to people or get to know people who are willing to also engage the other people who just go to the deliberation room and do work and all the off time. But, go venture out and find some food with people and talk to people that you would ordinarily never actually talk to.
That's right.
And I thought that those were really nice experiences.
Because everyone usually has a different job because, we're only talking to people in our industry.
That's true.
So that's also kind of fascinating to find out what other people do.
So it was fun serving on a jury 2 times after having seen 12 Angry Men, because since I watched it in high school, that was my first, sort of
foray
exposure to it. So it's not quite like that.
Yeah.
But
it's not as dramatic for that one. Yeah.
For that one.
Did you ever see the Amy Schumer parody?
I didn't, but I'm aware of it.
Yes. It's basically they're trying to determine if she's attractive enough to be in a film or in movies or something like that. But it's very well done and good parody. So great picks. Good job.
Yay.
All right. All right. We're back with Malin. Welcome back.
Hey, Brian.
So for this week's episode, we're going to talk about movies that take place in a day or in a night, but whatever it has to be within a 24-hour time frame. And this has been a fun one because we've been all over the map on this.
Oh,
so
good.
So I'm really curious to see what you came up with.
So maybe you can help me out on this one. There's one movie. I don't think it falls within 24 hours, but I think it's damn close. Pulp Fiction.
Actually, yeah, because they keep going back in sections, but it basically takes place in one day.
Yeah. So the thing is, it might kind of be more than 24 hours, but not by too much more than 24 hours, I don't think. I was trying to map out the chronology of it, and I was looking online, and a bunch of people have put together these weird maps of the convoluted plot lines. But they haven't done it by sunrise, sunset, or anything. So I'm not totally sure, but I'm 90% sure that it's within maybe a day and a couple hours.
Yeah, nobody's picked it, but I'm going to give it to you because I don't remember it being much longer than a day if it isn't a day.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, then I'm going to put that on my list. But having said that, I know that somebody out there listening to this podcast is going to be like, but what about the flashback with Christopher Walken? And I'm going to say, well, that's just a flashback.
Exactly.
So it's
that doesn't
the only
count.
thing I can see that legitimately definitely cheats the 24-ish hour premise, but
no, I think flashbacks are totally allowable on this.
Okay, cool. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's a fun one because so much happens in that film, and when you think about it, it's kind of over the course of a day. All of these stories start to intertwine more and more as you get through the film, and you realize they may be happening at the same time, or they may be happening just kind of more or less sequentially, but then you're watching them out of sequence. So it's all kind of happening at the same time, but all these different stories in LA are kind of unfolding.
That's right. Yes.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, definitely.
Couple others. Ferris Bueller and Breakfast Club. Those are kind of my growing up teenage movies. I don't know. Those both take place in a day. I think those kind of both are as far as the 80s go, the epic takes place in kind of day one ditching school and the other one in detention at school.
Right, wishing they could ditch detention, yes.
Yeah.
But no, I mean Ferris. I mean it's in the title. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is definitely my number one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's interesting because those films kind of I used to ditch school a lot. I might have told you this before.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And you used to go to the movies.
Bueller.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
You used to go to the movies when you ditched.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It all pays off in the end.
Never as epic as Ferris Bueller, but those were always interesting. It's always kind of disappointing at the end of the day when you have to kind of go back to normal life. Go home and be I guess kind of hold up the idea that you went to school.
Yeah, because it's almost like you have this enormous high from knowing that you're doing something that you should, and then it all comes crashing down at the end.
Yeah. And you just have to kind of play like it never happened.
That's right.
Richard Linklater does lots of movies in a day.
Mm.
I haven't seen all of them, but I did see Slacker and Dazed and Confused when those two films came out.
Yes.
And those are fascinating. I remember when Slacker came out, it was this experimental film where it's just kind of following people around Austin, Texas, over the course of roughly a day, and you go through all sorts of different environments and different. You meet all sorts of different characters. I don't think you really meet more than maybe one or two of them more than once. Mm-hmm. Pretty much you follow one character through a scene or something that they're going through, and then
it'll transition to the next character as they're like walking by or interacting briefly with that character. So it's kind of this stream of consciousness through the city of Austin through a single kind of like day in the life. So that's Slacker. People know him better for Dazed and Confused, though, because that's the like last day of high school, last hurrah kind of party movie that got Matthew McConaughey recognized, as well as Richard Linklater.
True, and people forget Ben Affleck plays the great asshole in that, O'Banion.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's the one that gets pained on him in the end.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy. No, I totally like zoned out over that.
What's
Totally
funny,
didn't catch
he's
that
in
at
a lot of the beginning, and then after he's up until like the halfway point, and then he's gone. You don't see him for the rest of the movie. So,
Huh.
yeah.
Okay. I'll have to check that one out. It's been ages since I've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly, it's been longer than Ben Affleck has been a familiar face.
Correct. Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have caught it. But
Definitely.
the movie that right now is like totally mind blowing. Was that like his first film too?
It was one of the early ones. But I think the film still holds up well. I mean, it's definitely a time period piece. The music's great, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And it totally kind of feels like my last day at high school, because that kind of happened to me too. It was like high school ended. None of us had any idea what the heck was going to happen, or what we were supposed to do, or expected to do, or even what we wanted to do. So I think we just kind of hung out for a week with, people who I really wouldn't see much at all after that.
Right. It's true, because that's one thing they didn't really get into, the people that were going away. What's going to happen. So that would have been an interesting sequel if they had chose to go there.
Okay, so other movies that happen in a day, I'm going to kind of bunch together. 'Cause I notice it seems like a lot of mysteries or horror movies kind of happen in a day.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, because it's, I think it adds to the claustrophobia of the film. For suspense films, if you know that there's a particular time period, then you've already got this kind of ticking time bomb that's going off as you're watching the film, so it heightens the expectation and anticipation. And in horror movies, starting to think about this too, like with if you know it's going to happen in like just a day or a particular period of time. I guess maybe I feel like you can breathe a little bit less, because I know there's nowhere for the main characters to go, like physically or environmentally, but also like in terms of time, like you can't just like step out of the story or the tension and then step back in when you're like more comfortable. It's all locked in. But,
right.
Like Night of the Living Dead, like zombie films.
Yes.
Like those are all kind of time sensitive, and especially Ramirez, where it's Night of the Living Dead was, even that was like a full day, I think.
Yeah,
like
it was
morning to morning,
and the ending is definitely not what you expect, which was great.
Yeah. No, that film holds up.
Oh, totally.
Like very few horror movies of that period or before. I mean, there are a handful, but not many, and that one definitely.
Especially low budget ones.
So, absolutely. So a couple other horror movies, The Birds, I think, almost happens in a day, but not quite. Like I don't know if like when she visits the pet shop in the beginning, I think that probably disqualifies it.
Because I think she buys pajamas or something at one point, so I think she sleeps over. I think it's a 2-day thing.
Oh dang it!
Yeah.
Okay, well,
but good try.
Okay, well, I'm trying.
Yes.
So, Labyrinth happens in an evening.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, probably actually, I guess only in a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I like that one.
Yeah, definitely.
Quite a lot. Let's see. What else? Oh, and mysteries. Oh, I had one. I think Gosford Park is a weekend and not like a day, so never mind.
Okay.
That's another fantasy movie, kind of like Labyrinth, that happens probably in the matter of like, I think it's between the time that the kid goes to bed and wakes up again. But all sorts of things happen, both in Labyrinth and in Time Bandits. Like even though it's, the character is only experiencing like an hour or a nighttime in the real world, so many adventures happen like inside of the fantasy world that they go into. And I guess Time Bandits, he's going all over the place and all over time as well. But it's all kind of enveloped within a single day.
Yeah, and I'm glad you keep bringing up Time Bandits, because that's a movie a lot of people forget, and it's really a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, it's unforgettable. Absolutely unforgettable.
Yeah, totally.
It has Shelley Duvall on the Titanic.
I know.
And it has John Cleese in really inappropriate Robin Hood attire.
That's true.
It's got so much fantastic stuff in it.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. And the devil, a really, really fantastic devil. Probably the best devil. Or for me, the most memorable devil character. Anyway, so that's almost everything. And then my last one, this is my absolute favorite happens in a day film, but it's probably not very well known, or maybe not very well remembered popularly, and I don't know if it was ever really very popular in the US. I don't think it was. So I think it's a 1967 French film by a guy named Jacques Tati, who did a lot of kind of silent character physical comedy in France in the 60s. And several of his movies, I think, actually take place in a day as well. But this is my absolute favorite. It's one of my very favorite movies, where his character goes to Paris and he arrives on a bus with a bunch of tourists. Or maybe he doesn't arrive with the tourists. But anyway, he arrives like at the same time as these tourists in Paris. And it's the whole film is just kind of his bumbling around Paris in this kind of modern architecture setting that's kind of plunked down in the middle of like the historic and cultural setting of Paris that you don't see very much of. And it's really interesting to me because there's a lot of commentary on modern architecture versus traditional or historic architecture, urban planning, just the lack of soul in modernism, or as it was perceived to have kind of a lack of soul and identity during that period. And anyway, so it's definitely worth checking out. It's kind of a masterclass on modernist architecture from the middle of the century.
And what's the movie called again?
Playtime.
Playtime. Okay, I think you said in the beginning, but I wanted to make sure that if you haven't seen it, definitely check out Playtime.
Yeah, Playtime by Jacques Tati.
Nice. Well, nobody picked that, so I'm glad you mentioned it. And we got Time Bandits in there. And hell, even if The Birds is 2 days, check it out anyway, because it's one of the best Hitchcock films there is as well. So,
absolutely.
Yes.
Cool.
As always, thank you, Malin.
Thanks, Brian.
We are officially on Spotify now, so if you don't use iTunes, if you don't use the Podbean app, you can go to Spotify and get all of our past episodes. You can stream it on there, so if you're a Spotify user, you can go find Damn Good Movie... I can't even say my own podcast. Damn Good Movie Memories. Yes, I know what I'm talking about. I'm the host, right? Okay, so go to Spotify, look for Damn Good Movie Memories. You can stream all of that stuff. And yeah, so if you don't want to use iTunes, you don't want to use Podbean, you can use Spotify as well. All right, before we sign off, we do have t-shirts are available for sale. All you have to do is go to TeePublic, that's TeePublic.com, and you can get your very own Damn Good Movie Memories t-shirt. You can get all sizes, any gender, you can get whatever you want just at the tip of your fingers. So just go to TeePublic.com, look up Damn Good Movie Memories, and you can get your very own t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast and are an iTunes user, please do the show a favor and head on over to the official iTunes page for Damn Good Movie Memories. Be sure to leave a rating and a review. This will allow the show to appear higher in the algorithm and spread the joy of this podcast to the masses. If you are not an iTunes user, you can still listen and subscribe on Podbean at damngoodmoviememories.podbean.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook under our Damn Good Movie Memories page. You can also listen to a limited number of episodes on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and be sure to tune in next week for an all-new episode of Damn Good Movie Memories.
I am Dr. Fuck, And I'm the Total Alcoholic.
And we are part of the Rock and Metal Combat Podcast.
We are the Rock and Metal Combat Podcast.
That's right. And the way you can check us out is we are on iTunes and also Podbean. And we forgot a review recently. I got this review right here. It says right here, it says, Rock and Metal Combat Podcast is the greatest podcast in the world, and it's my number one podcast, signed by Science. Now, and then Science also says... Science also said, my second favorite podcast is It Doesn't Matter, the Rest Suck. Rock and Metal Combat Podcast on iTunes and Podbean. Check it out.
Science!